Shalom, this video is about Parashat Kee Teesa. In Exodus, it contains many very important stories and ideas and values for us. It begins by talking about the way in which they did the census, which was by collecting a half a shekel from all the males above 20. Now, this had several purposes. Half shekel was the main, the shekel was the main kind of dollar in those days. First of all, if you knew how many half shekels you had about for guys over 20, then you knew how many soldiers you had, because they were preparing for battle if they needed it. Second of all, the money went to maintain the religious cult, and then later on the tabernacle, and of course the temple. But thirdly, it teaches us the important value of not counting people by numbers. I mean, after all, we're so many numbers. You got your cell phone number, and your house number, and your social security number, and your bank number, and your passwords, and your passcodes, and just number, and people are identified by numbers. In fact, when the Nazis wanted to completely dehumanize the Jews in the Holocaust, they put numbers on their arms. And so the less we count people as numbers, the better. So when we count a million, for example, we try not to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We sometimes so like not 1, not 2, not 3. Or a better way is to take a bracha, like hamotzi for bread, that has 10 words in it. If you give every person one word of the bracha, if you get to the end of the bracha, you know you have a minyan of 10 people. So that's the first idea about census. The second idea was Bezalel was the main artisan who was responsible for the design and interior decorating of the Mishkan, the Mikdash. It says he was appointed with special gifts endowed by God. And I think the lesson there is that all of us have special, unique gifts. There's so many different midrashim and stories about how if you're missing one person, you don't have a full community. Like last week, it talked about in the Urim and Tumim and ephod of the high priest, how they'd have all of the 12 stones of Israel. Missing one, it wouldn't be a good set. So everybody's got unique gifts. What is yours? And the question is, how do you communicate that, and how do you use it to serve God rather than just yourself? What are your special gifts? Then it has another paragraph about Shabbat, reminding us of the importance of Shabbat and not working on Shabbat and celebrating Shabbat. And then we get to one of the main episodes of the whole story of ancient Israel, the golden calf. So Moses goes up on the mountain to get the law, and so he would be gone for 40 days. And there's a rumor that starts that he's dead. And it was a long time, and 40 really means a long time. You got 40 years in the desert, you got 40 days. So Moses is going longer than the people could bear. They were slave people. Just recently freed. So they're scared, and they think their leader is dead. Now, according to, and I mentioned in my last couple of videos on the Parsha Truma especially, there's a debate about whether God decided to order the construction of the Mishkan before the golden calf or after. Was it an antidote to the disease of the golden calf, or was it part of God's plan originally? Well, let's just say that God is giving Moses the laws of the building of the Mishkan while he's up on the mountain, so the people don't know there's going to be a physical space. So they're terrified, they think he's dead. So they congregate. Now, it's interesting, the word vayakel, kihila is the word for congregation, but in a verb form it's kind of ominous. They congregated, and Aaron felt threatened. Now, he was, according to Jewish tradition, a peace-loving guy. He wanted to create peace, kind of maybe afraid for his life, so he acquiesces to their demand to build a god, but he wants to delay and see if Moses will come down, so he says, go home and get your jewelry. Well, the guys don't want to wait. They pull the gold earrings off their ears, and they give it to him. It creates a golden calf, and they worship it. Now, Joshua was halfway up the mountain, Moses' lieutenant, and he says, Moses, there must be a war going on. Well, Moses knows it's not a war. When he comes down with the 10 Commandments, he is very disappointed, to put it mildly. And he doesn't think the people deserve the 10 Commandments after committing the great sin they just did about idolatry. So he shatters the tablets. Now he's still learning from God how God runs the universe, and he asks God basically what to do. And then God gives him the beautiful, sublime, unbelievably poetic 13 attributes of God. Adonai, Adonai, Arachum, V'chanun, Erach, Apayim, V'rav Chesed, V'yemet, Zer Chesed Le'alafim. Whoever said the God of the Old Testament is a mean God just doesn't read it. God is full of love and compassion. Now, God is just and requires justice when it's necessary, like anybody should. But this talks about God as Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'chanun, loving, kind, mercy, forgiving for 1,000 generations. And so God tells Moses what to do. He's going to forgive the people, even after this great, horrible sin. And then tells Moses to come back up and gives him another set psalacha. He gives them, creates them, uses the word for idol, but in a verb form it's to inscribe or create another set of tablets which they kept. And according to tradition, all the years until they lost the ark, they had the broken set of tablets with the full set of tablets. People get a second chance, just like the Israelites got a second chance. Now, the second tablet wasn't exactly like the first tablet. It wasn't the first tablet, but it was like Karishona, it says. And so we have this really powerful story. Now, it ends with a very interesting thing. You may know Michelangelo did a sculpture of David with horns. And if you ever hear, why do Jews wear kippot to cover our horns? I mean, that's ridiculous, of course, just stupid. But where does it come from? It comes from this parsha. Because it says that when Moses, if you encounter God, don't you think you're going to be shining and radiant? Well, the Hebrew word there is karen, and it's the same. If you vocalize it differently, it means horns. So in the Septuagint and the Vulgate, the translations of the Hebrew did it, they said Moses came down with horns, not shining rays of light beaming from him from the encounter with God. And so when Michelangelo didn't know Hebrew, he read that, he put horns on his sculpture of Jews. So that's where the idea of Jews with horns came from. But it actually just meant that Moses' face was completely radiant from the power of glory of encountering God. So that is a sum of the amazing Parsha of Kee Teesa.